Welcome, everybody, to the Courageous Truth Podcast. As always, I am honored that you have chosen to spend a little bit of time with me today. I want to take a moment really and just kind of pause this podcast, and I want to almost reintroduce myself, want to relaunch this podcast in a lot of ways. I started this podcast back in 2021. And when I started this podcast, I was noticing that there was just so much confusion and so little clarity. There was a world that was just run rampant with this COVID-19 pandemic. There was overreach of the government, especially in my state, in Washington State. There was mask mandates. There was this cultural Marxism movement that was beginning. Actually, it wasn't even beginning. It was just surfacing. It was just basically rearing its ugly head as it has been working into culture for so long. But this is why I started the podcast. I started this podcast because I wanted to bring clarity to confusion. I wanted to bring articulation to things that were just muddled up in our heads. And I wanted to be able to empower people to articulate what they believed and how they felt about the things that were happening in the world. I have a few goals at this podcast, and like I said before, I want to help articulate what you are seeing in culture through a biblical lens. That's what I'm here for. I want to help you to put words to your thoughts, to put words to the places in your mind that you can't articulate, to help you articulate them, to either communicate them to your friends or family, or mainly just for yourself, so that you don't feel like you're going crazy in the world. I want to be an empowering voice for normal, average, everyday people. I am not a celebrity. I will never be a celebrity. I will never have a huge following. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is reaching you. I'm interested in reaching you so that you can be empowered to live a life of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? This is mainly an American podcast, or maybe I know I have followers all over the world, but I want you to be an empowered voice. And I also want to be a voice for discernment in trying times and through cultural events. Now, I'm not a news outlet. I will never be a news outlet. I will talk about things that are happening in the news, but don't come to me if you're looking for news. Come to me if you're looking for just help to make sense of it all. I want to share the mission statement of this podcast, and this is something that I'm going to read just about every episode. The Courageous Truth Podcast exists to bring biblical clarity to the secular culture and to impart wisdom to assist with the navigation of conflicting ideologies. The Courageous Truth Podcast's heart is to equip and empower listeners to stand for truth regardless of the consequences, because truth requires courage. And I think that with a statement like that, that says everything that you need to know about the reason why I'm here. If you want to be a person who speaks truth, if you want to be a person who stands for truth, if you want to go up against the mainstream agenda, then you're going to need courage to do so, because you will get mocked and laughed at and called all kinds of names. If you're like me, you're probably used to it, but I'm not used to it and as much as some people have had to endure, but we're getting there little by little. Now, a little bit about me personally. My name is Eric Lumberg. I was born and raised in Washington State. I grew up in a little tiny city called University Place that is in the Puget Sound area. I am a pastor. I pastor a Lutheran congregation. If you don't know who Martin Luther is, he was a man who stood up against the Roman Empire in the early 1500s. He was a monk, and basically he stood up against the Roman Empire, or I'm not the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, excuse me. He stood up against the Roman Catholic Church because the church was misusing scripture and using it to extort people, and he knew that was wrong. And he went to the church officials, he was taken to court, and he stood strong and said, no, the word of God is not to be misused. It is to be in the hands of everyone who believes, and we are all called to be a priesthood, not just the papacy, not just the popes. That's why what I love about the Lutheran heritage. Before that, I was a Foursquare pastor, which is not much different in a way we believe, but there is a few doctrinal differences, but not many. I'm also a business owner, which makes me want to speak the truth even more. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 8 kids, and I have an example to set to my children about what taking a courageous stand looks like and when you need to take that stand. I'm also a voter, and I'm also a taxpayer. And as a taxpayer, it matters who I vote for, and it matters who represents me in matters of state and politics. The future of the nation of America and the future of the church matter to me greatly. I believe we need more voices to speak the truth, or we will see the disintegration of our communities and our societies. Like you, I go to the news, I watch the news, I'm seeing what's happening. I'm seeing two sides of our nation is divided. There's two sides. We've got one side that believes in freedom and believes in a republic. The other side believes in this progressive ideology that is ever changing, and it's always moving, and you can't really anchor it down to anything. It's always changing, and definitions are always changing, and words mean new things than they did yesterday. I'm a conservative, and what that means is I want to conserve that which is good and that which is pure and that which is holy, and I want those to stay as foundational pillars and aspects of my country and of my faith from here on out. So that's why I've started this podcast. That's what I'm going to speak into. And so maybe that my type of personality is going to register with you. Okay, I film these podcasts early in the morning or late in the afternoon because I work as a pastor and I work as a construction worker and I don't have a lot of time. So my prayer is that my voice will inspire your voice. That's my prayer. The vision for this podcast is simple. I want to have 2 podcasts a week. I want to have video and I want to have audio. I'm going to do little short snippets to get the word out there, but we need you to like, subscribe, and share with your family and friends because my heart is to create a culture around this podcast. I want to get quality content every time I take the airwaves or every time I come into your home or into your earbuds. I want to have quality contact, and that only comes through audience participation. That only comes if you, my audience, my listeners, give me feedback either in the comments or on my YouTube channel so that I can know what kind of content you're looking for so that I can give it to you. Now that you have seen this video and you know what the vision and goal of this podcast is, I will know the kind of audience that this is going to be specified for. Now, it's not a podcast for everybody, and that's okay, but it is a podcast for some, and as long as there's at least one listener, I'm going to keep pushing ahead. I also want to empower people to uncover the truth in a sea of cultural lies. There are lies and lies upon lies in the media, in the political arena. Everywhere we go is lies. How do we find the truth? How do we find the truth? Let me be a voice to help find that truth. So that's it for this episode. I really want to engage with you. I really want to get to know you. I really want to create a place where confusion can find clarity. That is my main goal. My name is Eric Lundberg. I've been a part of the cultural battle for quite some time. What really started this whole venture in 2017, I found on Amazon, and I'll have to double check this, but I found on Amazon, it was a book on how to learn how to pimp a woman. And at first I thought it was a joke, but I went to Amazon and it was on there. You can go and look for yourself. It may have been taken down by now. But it was a book on how to pimp a woman, how to gaslight her, how to manipulate her and all this. This big thick book was for sale, and I thought, is this what our culture is coming to? And so I began to have different workshops at my church that helped to expose the transgender agenda, the LGBTQ agenda, and what was really behind these things. And I had a few of those over the years. And when I finally stepped out to be a church planner, I realized that not enough pastors, not enough ministers were actually talking about these things. And they avoided them. And I'm not going to judge their reasons, but I'm going to say there was a lot of avoiding these things. So it was very important to me that I offer my voice into these places that brought confusion and offer that clarity, and mainly to inspire truth in my listeners and inspire courage. Okay, because if you want to take a courageous stand nowadays, you've got to be courageous. I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And you've heard me on this podcast talk about the January 6th event. Okay, there were some people that broke some laws, but a majority of those people were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, thinking that they were doing something that was innocent and taking a tour of a cool building and ended up in jail for it. So, and you see that more and more, that people are going to abortion clinics, getting arrested for protesting. They're taking pro-lifers are getting raided by the FBI. We're seeing that. And what really started this is I was starting to see local, more and more conservative voices under scrutiny and under fire for their courageous stand. And I felt like I wanted to contribute, even if just a little bit. So I want to take courage. I want to speak out against this cultural Marxism. I want to speak out against the transgender agenda. I want to speak out against the Democrats' evil policies. I want to speak out against the DEI, the Department of Exclusivity and Inclusion. No, it's the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Sorry. That's how big of an impact it's having in the world. I want to speak out against that because they're destructive policies. I think some people think they're doing good, but they're not doing any good. They're destroying our nation. And so I want to get us back to conservative Christian values. You don't have to be a Christian to enjoy Christian, wholesome, common sense values. So that's who the Courageous Truth podcast is. I hope this blesses you and inspires you. So continue to take a courageous stand for the truth. Tune in over the next couple episodes. I have an interview coming up within the next week with Pastor Brent Emery, who is a big advocate for the nation of Israel. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some current events. So please like, subscribe, share with your family and friends. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get a culture going and allow me to be your voice for courageous truth. So God bless you. I will see you next time.